everyone, and welcome back to the Extra Lap podcast. Today, we are very lucky enough to have with us Stanford commit Byron Grievous. Byron, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. And so, Byron, you put together a really good cross season. Cross country is obviously the 5K for high school. And, as a more of an upper distance guy like yourself, you run the 5K on the track. So, what differences do you find in the strategy and just running it?
And yeah, the outdoor 5K versus like on the track. I think the cross country season is really gritty. Um, really time goals go out the window, and it's really just focused on beating the guy ahead of you and like going for the win. And every time I step up to the line, whereas when you're on the track, whether that's like indoor or outdoor, um, you get the splits every time like you come around for 400, and so you're hearing these times, and I feel like depending if it's championship or not, like a championship race, the strategy on like a track 5K, it's much more strategic than like a cross country race, again depending on like what type of race you're doing. I'd say NXN, the strategy, um at least that year. It was downpour. I think sort of strategy went out the window a little bit, and it was trying to get through the race just as fast as possible, which is really hard with the conditions. Whereas if you take like Nike Outdoor Nationals last year in the spring when I ran the 5K, I think strategy was more involved there. And I don't know, when I'm stepping onto the track, it's definitely another like mental barrier because it's like 12 and a half laps versus you think point A to point B in the fall. But I don't know. I love that distance. It's definitely my bread and butter right now. And yeah.
Definitely. And, I just got this pointed out. You got a killer setup behind you in your dorm room. A lot of really cool race numbers, obviously. As a runner, you've done a lot of races. Has any of those stuck out to you, though, in particular?
Yeah, so last spring, the numbers over there, but I
Mhm.
went down to Bentley University in Massachusetts.
Yep.
Relatively small race. It was called the Battle Roads Twilight Meet,
Hmm.
and I ran the 5K here, and so I pull up with my coach and a couple of my teammates who are running at that same meet,
Hmm.
and very low key. It was a chilly day in Boston, like the Boston suburb area.
Hmm.
And I remember stepping on the line. There was one guy from Providence, and then an Irish dude who he was pacing. And I remember this was like my tune-up race for nationals the following week, I believe. And
Hmm.
so didn't have too many expectations um, in the lead up. And so I was talking to my coach before, and we were just like, just try to hang with who's ever up there because we knew there'd be some competition. And I remember, yeah, stepping on that line and the pacer saying, "All right, guys, if you want to run 14:10, stay behind me." And I was like, "Okay, that looks like it's going to be the goal for today."
Hmm.
And we're going, and it just felt like it was my day. And we're going through hitting the lap 67s. He's doing an amazing job, and it comes with 1200 to go. And I still felt like I had some kick left in me, and I could feel that we were sort of dropping off the pace. And take the lead with 3 laps to go,
Hmm.
and I led the race from there. And that's where I ended up running 14:04, and that was just besides being like a 25-second PR in the
Hmm.
5K, it was just an amazing like experience to like not only just run that time, but at that place and having my teammates there because a couple of them, this was just right when we finished school. So we all came down in a school bus uh, to that track meet. But yeah, that was one of the most memorable races I've had. Alongside like Milrose, I went to last year at the Armory,
Hmm.
um, NXN last year and the year previous. All amazing races. And I don't
Hmm.
know, I've been really fortunate now that it's my senior year. And looking back, I know I still have the rest of winter and going into the spring season. But I'm just really grateful for all the opportunities I've had to like run in some incredible atmosphere, some incredible places against great athletes. And no, yeah, I mean, I couldn't. I'm just really happy with how like high school running has gone for me so far.
Definitely. And I feel like, as you're talking about the meet at Bentley, I feel like running itself, you never know when it's going to be your day. Like you could feel sore and then during the race, you just say, today's going to be my day and take off. So, it's always good not to get down on yourself. So what advice would you give to someone who might not feel like their day or might not feel like it's their opportunity? Maybe they're not putting the heat they want in a race or, whatever the conditions are. What would your advice be to just go after it still?
Yeah, that mental side, that mental aspect was something I didn't really think about or think thought I needed to actually sort of understand how to deal with.
Hmm.
But coming into senior year, when like media and getting a little more attention behind my name, and that pressure starts to build up when I was going to NXR and like I was seeing on Instagram that people were saying like I was the favorite. It's small things like that
Hmm.
where if you have sort of a nick or pain or you wake up on meet day and you're not feeling great and you have that pressure, whether it's social media or some internal pressure that you're putting on yourself for like whatever athlete you are,
Hmm.
um, it's figuring out and sort of training that mental side, that mental aspect of how to deal with it. And yes, this year I've definitely tried to work on that.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think the biggest piece of advice I would give, what's worked best for me is whenever I'm at these big races, is like not trying to tune it out, not trying to think about um like what's gonna happen at the end if I run so well or if I win. It's more of just like enjoying the opportunity that I get to um, compete wherever I am running and just make the most of it and like have fun. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like it's my sport and I really want to like have fun with it. And I
Hmm.
think it's when you start to lose love for the sport is like when I know I can't do it anymore just because like it's not like I don't find enjoyment. So like as long as I can, I want to hold on to the joy that I get out of the sport. And so yeah, that's a piece of advice I would give is just like as cliche of just like enjoy the moment. It's more so like make the most of it and just like have fun with it, you know?
Definitely. And as you said, you're the favorite for NXR this year. As a junior, there's a lot of guys, and senior, you're the favorite. So how is that different? Like, would you say it's more nerve-wracking knowing you're the favorite? Is it less nerve-wracking? And, how does that change your race strategy? Just what goes into that?
Yeah, I think it has a most impact on the mental side of racing, which I mean, I think the mental side is like 90% of really running for the majority of it. And like my junior year, I think I didn't have that pressure and it was much easier to just go out there and prove myself. I find you can have like you can build a lot of motivation by saying I'm going to prove something to someone or I'm
Mm.
going to prove this to myself. And like junior year, I feel is like where you do that, where you're seeing these seniors um, on social media being
Mhm.
the favorites, and that is building the fire where like I'm in the race and I see that and I'm like, I'm gonna go and try to beat him. And so coming into senior year and like trying to adjust to be like, if I'm the favorite, like the fire still needs to be there. And like that mental side is like not trying to get complacent or and still running as hard as possible. And so I think NXR specifically, I had familiarity with the course from like last year, and so it's trying to take advantage of the features, especially Bowdoin is
Mhm.
I think hands down the hardest regional course of the circuit, and so with the undulation and the grade going up to like a mile and a half, my race plan switched from junior year where I was just trying to hang with Devin Kipiego and
Mm.
Aiden Cox as long as possible. And it's just trying to hang, let them make the moves. Whereas this year, it's taking the reins of the race and trying to take advantage of what I think suits my running style the most. And so it's making a push at the top of the hill or bombing the hill as hard as possible. Um, and it's tiny things That definitely changed from junior year to senior year.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah, I think there's definitely a difference when you're trying to prove yourself versus you're coming in as a favorite.
Definitely. And I think to anyone who's watching or listening to this right now, if you haven't run Bowdoin, count yourself lucky. I mean, it's a really tough course. So how does like the NXR course you ran on compared to NXN? Because I've heard from like people who've ran there at least, it's a excruciating course.
Yeah. So I mean, depending on the conditions, say Bowdoin and Glendoveer were both a sunny day, like 60 degrees.
Mhm.
Um, I would choose Glendoveer like every day.
Really?
It's I mean it's a nice manicured golf course for most of it, but when you add the weather component, like torrential rain, which you normally get in Portland, so
Yeah.
it's pretty common that golf course grass soaks in the water like a sponge. And so it's definitely a different type of challenge than say like running up a mountain, which I would sort of compare Bowdoin to.
Hmm.
Whereas with Glendoveer, um, it is rolling hills for some of it, but you do have, I would say, a mile and a half of just like flat golf course running. Um, but yeah, you add that weather component, and it's just a different type of gritty racing
Hmm.
where you're just like you're putting as much power into the ground and you're just getting none out of it. Where you go back to Wappinger Falls and you're running on like a sort of a gravelly dirt path for the majority of the race, and you're going up that mountain. Um, so a different type of hurt, a hurt I have to get used to because I was more used to that like that Bowdoin sort of hilly course. But yeah, no, both really difficult courses.
Definitely. And like, I mean, the other thing too is you're swimming out there, right, in Oregon. I mean, like, there's video.
Yeah,
I mean, there's like some killer puddles out there in Portland, which is pretty crazy. I mean, to bring it to a different part of the podcast, you're wearing a Stanford shirt, you're a Stanford commit, so representing. So what went into that?
yeah. Um, it was a difficult decision. I was really grateful for all the time and resources each program I reached out to and ended up doing visits put forth. And to me. And so it did come down to some pretty difficult choices. And I mean, I was really grateful that I had the options that I did. So
Mhm.
it came down to Stanford, Harvard, UNC, and Wake Forest.
Mhm.
And for me, going into the recruitment process, I think it's important for any athlete, no matter like the level or division you're trying to get recruited to, is understanding what is most important to you, your priorities, whether that's like academics, which should be a very important side, and what you're looking to major in, focus in community of people outside your sport, and
Mhm.
what you feel most comfortable. And then on the athletic side, um, trying to find a team culture that you think you will flow best with and fit best in, as well as the more smaller details with like the coach's training philosophy and whatnot, and the feel of the campus. And so taking visits definitely helped a lot. And again, I'm very grateful for all the time and resources each coach and team had for me.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think when it came down to choosing Stanford, um, I looked at, I mean, the history of the program, of how strong they were, producing talents like Grant Fisher and Sean McGorty,
Mhm.
and with Coach Santos, who is relatively new to the program. Coach Milt was there before. Um, it was talking to him and seeing how he stepped in to that head coaching role, um, and he's done an amazing job. And I think you can see that with Kai and Charles and how they dominated both cross country and like last year with Kai winning the 10 and the 5 in track in Houston. And then the the team culture seemed to really replicate what we have here at Exeter. And I love the guys here. And if it's anything like the culture that I have here, I would love to have another 4 years of that.
Mhm.
And it's also talking to the recruits of who will be coming with me. So like Patrick Kuhn and Paul Bergeron, Joshua Bell, um, and James Dargan, a great group of guys who I think I'll be able to I mean, trained side by side with for 4 years, 5 years, and I'm really excited for like the next chapter. And going to the West Coast will be a change of scenery and a change of pace, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Definitely. And I mean, is it pretty exciting, mostly knowing you're committing to a school with such a great culture with it? Like, obviously, I feel like you probably at one point in yourself realized I'm an elite athlete, and it must have been surreal just, signing the NLI and just going for it.
Yeah, as much as someone can be talented, culture matters. Um, Trying to grow as an athlete, if you're not in an environment that is going to be there and help you grow,
Mhm.
it's just like as much talent as you have, it's not going to be great if you don't have guys or coaches or an environment that's going to be helping you get better and trying to reach the goals that you need to get to. And having, yeah, guys who are there each day, day in and day out is, I mean, what I'm looking for.
Definitely. And, as a runner of your caliber, the senior year is kind of the final stamp on a great legacy and a great career. So as you put that final stamp on your high school career, it's exciting going to your college one, but what are the goals for the rest of the season and outdoor?
Yeah, I mean, I got big goals. Like aside from just hitting times,
Mhm.
it's trying to really make the most of like knowing it's my last indoor season, my last outdoor season, my last 2 seasons with the guys I've spent like the last 4 years with. Um, and so I'll be going to Melrose in I believe it's 2 weeks from now.
Mhm.
Um, and hoping to, I mean, run better than I did last year, and have a good time. And then indoor nationals, um, not sure yet exactly what events I'll be running, but I mean, going for a national title is always the goal. And so, yeah, I do have some big time goals in my mind that I've written down. But I mean, besides that, it's just like enjoying the last sort of part of like my high school career.
Definitely. And I feel like for a lot of runners out there, it's about learning, you can have fun, you can enjoy the experience, even if you're not, maybe hitting a goal time or stuff. It's more than just a time. So like, what would you say to someone who's just basing their like season off times and giving their value only off times?
Yeah, I think that mindset can be a little bit, I wouldn't say dangerous, but it could be a little unhealthy in the sense that it gives you a lot of fuel and motivation, and that can burn really hot and sort of really quickly. And then I think by sort of structuring your mindset in a way that reworks it
Mhm.
from just times more um, into different types of like concrete goals is safer and more conducive for like having motivation that will burn longer than and not just burn out so quickly and you're losing that motivation. So it's like because if you think about those times and you're running that race, you cross a line, you look at the board and you see you were off by 4 seconds, there goes like then you wipe that whole race out and you're like, that wasn't a good race. No part of that race was good. Whereas if you sort of reshape that mindset into goals that are not just solely about the time, you can then look back at that race seeing I wasn't able to reach my goal, but there were there were my mindset I had with 400 to go to like try to get the guy ahead of me before like 200 so I could be there with a kick. Like taking little aspects of like positivity from each race and then putting them together and like binding them. So at some point you will reach that goal with all the little parts that you've picked from like different races that you might not have hit that goal, but
Mhm.
it's not like you're throwing each race away. It's not like the training you did leading up to that race where you didn't reach a goal
Mhm.
meant it's bad training, meant all that was for nothing, but it's like observing places where you did well and you could replicate but add on other areas. And I think that all stems back to your goals and how you create them. And so, yeah,
Definitely. And, to get back to what you were saying with your goals for the rest of this season, I assume you're gonna be heading to are you gonna be heading to the Armory for nationals or definitely.
yeah, I'll be going to Nike Indoor Nationals.
And what's the atmosphere in the Army? I mean, it's a historic stadium, of course. You've had the opportunity to run there. So what is it like there compared to like a place like BU or, you know, other indoor facilities?
Yeah, so I've run there. I think I've run on the track 4 times. I
Mm.
went there my sophomore year for New Balance Indoor Nationals, and then last year I was there for the mile, the high school mile, at the Melrose Games.
Mhm.
And so the history at that track, you walk in from like you're in Harlem, and then you take a right, and you're suddenly encapsulated by like this track atmosphere just coming from the city, and it's incredible. Like you go up 2 flights of stairs and you're met with like an indoor track in the city is like in the simplest terms. Yet when the spectators, when the lights turn on and like especially Melrose games, um, because we're not the main event, like people are there to see the pros run the 60 or the 2 mile or the Wanamaker mile. I remember I think right after we finished, Yard Goose ran his American record. But being in that environment, like we were just shoved in between 2 pro races, but it was packed. If you haven't been there, the majority of the stands are a half level above the track, and so you'll be running around and you'll hear the roar of the crowd, but it's not like next to you at BU, where you have like fans either on the infield or like right out to the side, but it's just like it's right above you, and it's the same with like all the lights that are flashing. And it's a historic track. There have been some incredible moments in like running history that have gone down there. And so to get the opportunity to like run there multiple times is I'm really grateful for that. And it makes me like makes me really grateful every time I get to step on that track.
Definitely. And I feel like, as you said, you got to see the pros in between. I know you had the opportunity, you ran at BU, ran a great race, and you got to see the 5K,
Mhm.
obviously, after with all those
Yeah.
pros and all those great collegiates. So, what is that like? I mean, as a high level runner like yourself, how inspiring is it to just see that?
It's a surreal moment because I was there when Grant Fisher broke the indoor American 5K national record, I believe, last year. And then I was there last Friday when I believe 5 men got the Olympic standard, as well as Nico breaking the NCAA record. And to be on the track, like screaming for them, is surreal in the sense that that's where I want to see myself in the near future. And to know I've like put myself on those steps, I've started working up there is surreal. And I mean, the atmosphere, like I track fans are amazing. Like you'll have everyone just cheering. It was so loud that night. Um, and so like to be as close as we were, like it's like a NBA fan sort of being courtside, but I'm
Mhm.
just like on the track. It's just a little different because I'm still seeing the people I idolize like running right before me, and so it's really cool. And the fact that the Northeast, like I just drove down from New Hampshire. It's like a 45-minute hour drive. And then I'm in Boston and you have the track at New Balance, you have BU, Reggie. Um, and so the amount of like indoor track is pretty serious in the Northeast. And so you're getting collegiates and pros from all around the country just coming to race at the same place like I raced an hour ago in the mile. And so it's cool. It's really cool.
Definitely. And, you know, switch gears again to the Stanford. I feel like your commitment post was a little bit different than most because you had, yourself as a youngster just running around. So what went into that? I've always been curious about that.
Yeah. Uh, I I always see like I've seen people have their like main commitment post and
Mhm.
then next slide is like a baby picture from them like running or something. And I remember going through my photo album like a while ago and seeing this baby photo from I believe it was like a it might have been like a 200-meter race or something really short for
Mm.
like kids at a local 5K in my town way back when. And it was that photo. And I was like, wouldn't that just be like hilarious to make as my like official commitment post? Because it shows, even though I hadn't been running since that time, like soccer was my main sport before high school. And so that took up most of my life, but to then reflect as I was trying to like post about my commitment for running and seeing that photo, it's like one big circle, even though I hadn't been running for 17 full years. It's
Mm.
like it's like a full circle. And I don't know, I thought it was yeah, just pretty funny trying to be a little different. So
It was pretty dang cool, I will say. And another thing outside of running, like what music are you listening to? If or do you have any song suggestions for anyone listening?
ooh, song suggestions on the spot, a little hard, but right now, I'm a big 90s R&B fan. So Lauryn Hill, and the Fugees, I'm always listening to like the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill on repeat. I love that album. Um, like recently, that new 21 album is really good hype up music there. But Drake, SZA, some more contemporary artists that I listen to. Um, I love Brent, and sort of that like new age of R&B, as well as like going back and forth to the 90s, early 2000s, and then with like I would put SZA and like Brent into that sort of category now. But yeah, if I let's see, if I had like one song that I could recommend right now, ooh, I'd get back to you as I'm thinking about it. But yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being a great guest, Byron. Everyone who's watching, thank you so much. And till our next lap, see ya.